Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. It is time for Longhorn Weekly, where we catch you up on everything that happened over the weekend. But really what we do here is set the table for the week ahead on the 40 acres. CJ, as of the time we're recording this, we're about 10 days away from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. You'll be up there. Right now, give me one thing that's top of mind for you that you're looking forward to the most as you get ready to go to Indy.
I think I have to start with Quinn Ewers. It's a very polarizing topic of where Quinn Ewers will go in this draft. And I know that the combine setting and what we'll see with him on the field is going to fit more into what we know of him as a quarterback. And that's when given a clean pocket, when given shorts and a t-shirt, he's going to wow some scouts, executives, and coaches, very similar to how he was a year ago during the Texas Pro Day. So I think this is one of those, if you're looking for Quinn Ewers to rise up at draft boards, this is a buy low opportunity going into the week of the combine. I think that's where you'll see him really become one of the more accurate, just elite arms in this draft. It's not a great draft, but certainly one of those conversations that I'm certainly coming away from Indianapolis expecting to hear Quinn Ewers rising up at draft boards in that quarterback conversation.
CJ, when you were at the Senior Bowl, two things on that front. One, what kind of buzz did you hear about Quinn in Mobile? And two, I'm intrigued to know because, look, we all know Jalen Milroe struggled, and that's, progression passing where he's stationary. He's not exactly his skill set. Where do you think Quinn would have ranked if he'd have been at the Senior Bowl? If he was in that group of quarterbacks, would he have been the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl? And then what was the buzz you heard from NFL people down in Mobile?
That's a great question because I juggled this thought the entire weekend, really. I wasn't really impressed with any of the quarterbacks there. And look, Dylan Gabriel, in my opinion, was the best quarterback in attendance. Is Dylan Gabriel a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers? You could probably argue in college, that he's a really talented college quarterback, right? He's a gamer. He finds ways to win football games. But hey, Quinn wasn't too shabby himself. Now, they're different quarterbacks. Obviously, you got to pick and take, some of the skill sets and traits that they share with one another. But aside from Gabriel, you really just kind of had to juggle the Seth Hannigans, the Tyler Shooks, Riley Leonards. I wasn't impressed with Jalen Milroe. Jackson Dart's in that conversation. I think he actually came out of that week as one of the big winners. But even then, Jackson Dart, for all of his flaws in college, look, he's not a guy that's going to be a surefire pick ahead of Quinn Ewers either. I don't think I would take him over Quinn Ewers. So would he have been the best quarterback in Mobile? I think the conversation absolutely would have been pretty close. And had you going through the one-on-ones, some of these quarterback drills that they went through, I think would have been very clear at the end of the week that Quinn would have been the best arm there. And that's where the conversation really gets nitpicky when it comes to the gameplay and the tape, et cetera, Jeff.
Yeah. If you want, we'll get back to Combine here in just a second, but if you want more thoughts on Quinn Ewers or anything Texas football related from CJ, myself, Bobby Burton, Jerry Hamilton, get over to ontexasfootball.com. Right now, you can get a 1-year subscription, 1 year of access to ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. Just use the promo code OTFOG. That's OTFOG at ontexasfootball.com. $49.95 will get you set up for the entire year. A massive year this fall, a massive season for Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns. CJ, the 14 combine invitees, Quinn among them. Sark's got a lot to replace, but as you look at what should be another tremendous draft for Texas, one guy that I'm maybe most fascinated to see what happens to him and where his stock goes coming out of the combine is Jaden Blue, because he's easily a guy that if he goes to Indy and runs an elite time and does well in the on-field drills, I'm not saying NFL teams are going to be willing to overlook his ball security issues, but it makes it more palatable once you see how well the skill set, in my opinion, fits to the modern day NFL game. Right. He's a mismatch as a wide receiver. You can do a lot of different things with him. If you're just looking for that kind of utility back that has some home run ability, he's going to make sense for a lot of teams right now in that day 3, maybe priority free agent mix. But CJ, he could get himself to where he's solidly in that day 3 mix. And if it's good enough, I could see maybe somebody grabbing him towards the end of day 2.
Yeah, I think that's quite the conversation. Because look, just last week we were talking about mock drafts having him going top 50.
Yeah.
And I don't think we had that conversation since before the season, right? The play on the field, I think, kind of took that step back. It kind of halted some of those day 2 progressions. Of course, we were expecting Blue to kind of carry on that conversation of a Roshan Bijan, Jonathan Brooks run for Texas up in that early part of the draft. And, the season just didn't go that direction. But he has that one elite trait, and it's his speed, to your point, right? It's that quickness and his speed. The 10-yard get off of the 40-yard dash will be elite. The 40-yard dash itself will be pretty darn quick as well. That's going to be what carries him in this draft in my eyes. Again, you're looking at Jaden Blue, a guy who has home run ability. We saw it against Clemson in the college football playoff. You get the ball in his hands in space, and it's a mismatch waiting to happen. Who's going to be the team that takes him? I think you look at a team like the Chiefs. You look at a team like the Dolphins. Teams that value that speed on the outside and have had great success doing it. Obviously, the Jahmyr Gibbs model is going to be the comparison that's thrown out often. Who's going to reach? I think you're right, though. He's going to be one that takes a bit of a step up after the combine and might be looking back saying at Texas fans saying, oh, y'all doubted me going this early? I knew I was going this high the entire time.
I think he's one of really 3 guys. I think it's Jaden Blue, Isaiah Bond, and Cam Williams. Those 3 guys could improve their stock to where they could end up going maybe higher than a lot of people expect. Right. There's also a chance, CJ, their combine performance could knock them down maybe even further down the board than what a lot of Longhorn fans think they should go, where they should go. Give me your take on those last 2 guys, Cam Williams and Isaiah Bond, because right now I think Isaiah Bond's probably maybe a mid to late second round pick at this point. Cam Williams going somewhere on day 2 as of right now. We just don't know where. Where do you think the ceiling is for both those guys? And I don't know, man. I worry about, especially for Cam Williams, I worry about if the combine doesn't go well, where the floor might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll start with Cam Williams because that conversation is worth having, right? He had a lot of penalties this year. The back half of the season wasn't great in protection. Of course, he was banged up with a knee, but wasn't, that solid piece on the right side that he was before earlier in the season. So is that something that not going to a bowl game and one of those senior bowls, did that hurt him? I know that he was a junior coming out, but look, if you're able to walk out there and showcase your skills against those level of guys, you basically cement your floor, right? Very similar to how Emory Jones at LSU was able to kind of come out and say, all right, for all my flaws, for all my strengths, this is where I am as a prospect. Yep. Cam Williams is interesting because I do think the height, the weight, the measurables are going to be big. What is he actually weighing in as? Of course, that was a conversation for Texas. T'Vondre Sweat, Xavier Worthy last year, what Texas listed them as, not always accurate there. So that'll be interesting. I'm glad you brought up wide receiver and where Isaiah Bond is as well, because I have that same kind of conversation with Matthew Golden just on the flip side. Does he have that one elite trait? Is it going to be the speed? Could he out jump some of these, kind of conversations about Matthew Golden and leap up back into that first round conversation, top 5 wide receiver conversation? I think it's kind of the opposite way for each. I think Isaiah Bond could move up, while I think Matthew Golden might move down, not because of his play, but because he doesn't have that one elite trait, which at wide receiver, I think more than anything, that's where GMs and scouts kind of get enamored with, oh, you're 6'3", you run a 4.3. We can teach you to become a good wide receiver, Jeff. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because it's one of those give and takes where the tape might scream one level of wide receiver, but then you see the combine, the measurables, and you say, oh, no, we can either take him a step higher or he's not yet going to be that guy in the NFL that we expect.
Yeah. Every year, it seems like at the combine, there's that one receiver that everybody has solidly in the first round, and then they run and they jump, and then boom, all of a sudden they're an early second round pick. Keon Coleman out of Florida State was that guy last year. I think what he ran in the 4.6s last year it wasn't very good. I think Matthew Golden, I don't think he's going to run in the 4.6s. I think you're good there. I just think he needs to a solid performance at the combine. I think it basically just hold serve. If he holds serve, I think he'll actually either improve his stock or maybe just keep himself in that first round discussion. So I don't necessarily worry about that, CJ. Like I said, I don't think, unless I'm just totally wrong and he comes out and runs, something in the low 4.5s, something like that. I think he's going to keep himself in that first round mix. The interesting thing for him, some of the explosiveness drills, the drills that measure explosiveness, the broad jump, the vertical jump, That I'm more interested to see that kind of stuff with him than I am with the combine, because I think if scouts are going to start nitpicking at stuff, I don't think it's going to be his straight line speed. I think it's going to be some of those drills that measure explosiveness that might ding him a little bit, if anything, to ding him. Isaiah Bond, on the other hand, you're right. Isaiah Bond could go run in the 4.2s, and all of a sudden he's suddenly a first-round projection all over again.
Yes.
We see that happen all the time. Like Xavier Worthy wasn't solidly in the first round at this time last year. Then he goes and breaks the combine 40 record, and then boom, he's a first-round guy. Like nothing changed about his skill set, his talent, anything other than he ran such and such time in the 40. Now, the good thing with Xavier Worthy, I think where it helps receivers of a smaller stature is go look at the production he had as a rookie. Might have had the best Super Bowl ever for a rookie wide receiver. So his production this year, granted, it's with the Chiefs and Andy Reid. They know how to use a guy like that. It helps. But yeah, Isaiah Bond, I don't think he can hurt himself, because I think his stock right now is about as low as it's going to get. He can only help himself. Matthew Golden, if he hurts himself, I don't think, CJ, it's going to be maybe as bad as you might think.
Sure. No, that's completely fair again. And what's interesting, I might have a differing opinion on Matthew Golden. Look, I think he's going to jump out the gym a little bit. I think he's going to have a really solid broad jump. I think he's going to have a solid vertical. Of course, that's good, fine and dandy. But until you see that 40 and what time that pops up as, then we'll start to have that conversation of falling or rising or hold and serve. But I think we all expect an Isaiah Bond, a Jaden Blue, these guys to really light it up, which brings me to the defensive side of the ball, where I wanted to ask you, is Jahdae Barron a lock to the first round, or is that another guy whose speed, combine measurables, underwear Olympics, could that be the reason why he falls out of the first round or saves himself, that extra year of contract with the first round selection?
I will die on this hill with Jahdae Barron. He is too good a football player that one of those organizations, let's say he falls, right? Let's say he's not a top 15 pick, but let's say he falls. One of those organizations in the 20s, the late teens to the 20s, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Packers are in that mix, the Lions. Those are organizations that are too smart to pass on a ball player as good as Jahdae Barron. So even if he does, CJ, I think even more so than Matthew Golden, if his stock slips, it's slipping like to the late first round. I don't think he's going to be a second round type guy. Again, I think there are too many smart organizations that value just good ball players. And at the end of the day, I don't care if he's at corner, safety, nickel, whatever. Jahdae, if his body allows him, is a guy that has the mental makeup and the skills to play double-digit years in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it for Texas fans who like following their players into the NFL, it's nice seeing them be selected by smart franchises, right? And this has been a theme. Look at where Texas players have gone recently. A lot to the Seahawks, now a lot with the Broncos. The Ravens have had a soft spot as well, all of which have been consistent contenders, with those Seahawks kind of having a run in there as well. But look, Moro Ojomo being selected late by the Eagles. Charles Omenihu, Xavier Worthy going to the Chiefs, all smart programs, franchises, and that certainly pays off in the playoffs when we see these guys play and perform on the largest stages.
Yeah, I know Quinn got mocked to the Jets in a couple of mocks, and I know the feedback I heard from Texas fans, both here on the channel and on ontexasfootball.com, was please no, let Quinn go anywhere but the Jets. That's where all good quarterbacks go to die.
No New York, no Cleveland.
But the one thing Quinn has going for him, though, he doesn't have to worry about playing for the quarterback killer, Jeff Fisher. That's Fisher's not coaching in the NFL anymore to ruin a quarterback. So, yeah, and even Colt McCoy showed you, hey, even the best quarterbacks can fall victim to that Cleveland curse. If you want more about the combine, and if you want more about the weekend that was, we'll touch on a couple of things coming up. We don't have time to get to everything, but CJ has a recap for you over at ontexasfootball.com. And right now is a really good time to get over to ontexasfootball.com. Use the promo code OTFOG, $49.95 for a 1-year subscription to ontexasfootball.com. Trust me, folks, you're going to want this for the summer when official visit starts, throughout the fall. Another special season on deck for Steve Sarkisian and the football program. So get over to ontexasfootball.com, OTFOG, $49.95 for the year. Will get you taken care of. CJ, let's talk about men's basketball real quick. Really big win. Speaking of Sark was in the house on Saturday watching Texas and Kentucky. Trey Johnson, 32 points, a career high. He only goes 1 for 8 from 3, scoring a career high 32 points. And he even said after the game, he only took 2 threes in the second half. And he said, I would have taken more if I would have had a look. He's like, I have no problem continuing to shoot it. He's so unique, CJ. I waited for it. And look, you can't compare him to Kevin Durant because anybody that watched KD's 1 year at Texas, it was so unique, so special. You can't, it's almost like comparing a quarterback season to Vince Young's 05. Like, I just can't. Let's just set this over here. This is what you're all chasing, right? And nobody's going to get there. But Trey Johnson's a guy the type of guy that I always wish Texas could get. A guy like your 6'5" 2 guard that can create his own shot. He's instant offense. You can go to him in the clutch to get a bucket. And Tremont Mark is healthy. He had a season high 26. But CJ, if Texas is going to take this win, and again, they won't be back in action until this Saturday on the road in Columbia against South Carolina. Again, a game where you'd hate to lose the momentum from the Kentucky win by losing a game that you should win on the road, even though it's on the road. When it's on the road, it's tough in the SEC. But CJ, if this team's going to get to the NCAA tournament and have a chance to do anything, it's going to be up to Trey Johnson to continue to carry this team there.
Yeah, it absolutely is. My favorite thing about Trey Johnson, it just feels like everything looks easy, but it never really is, right? The shots that he takes, I think his favorite shot is that, kind of that baseline mid-range J where he fades into the corner. That's not an easy shot. We see him take it probably 4 or 5 times per game. It's pretty remarkable because now we see that shot go in so consistently. The degree of difficulty is just kind of thrown away because of how constant we see him make that shot. But no, the instant offense, the ability to save a possession late in the shot clock by just heaving and praying, but it's not a prayer with him. It's really remarkable. And now in the last couple of games as well, when you don't have an Arthur Kaluma, when you don't have some of the more consistent ball handlers at the top of the key for you, he's kind of become that dish guy, right? His assist numbers are up over the last week or two. Obviously, the scoring 32 points on 26 shots. That is kind of what you'd hope for him to take when Texas is shorthanded. But the big thing for me, Texas winning this game in really the last 4 minutes, Jeff, where you haven't seen Texas kind of take over these ball games late, until that last minute heave at the buzzer to ruin the spread. Sorry to some folks who had that. But Texas won the final 351, 18-5. That's not been a theme under Rodney Terry for quite some time. I know Kentucky was shorthanded in their own right, but look, Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark, that's kind of the Tremont Mark that we were hoping to see complement Trey Johnson here this year. If they can continue that level of play late in ball games, they're going to have more success, and they'll definitely be in the tournament by the end of the season.
They'll need to get those spurts from Caden Shedrick. And I'm not saying you can get, 6 points and 8 rebounds every night from Jason Kent, but if he gives you more efforts at both ends, like he did on Saturday against Kentucky, you're going to be in pretty good shape. CJ, speaking of good shape, boy, Schloss broke the Globe Life curse. Fierce over the weekend. That extra innings loss to Louisville was tough to stomach for the baseball team, but they come back, CJ, and wins over the run rule win over Ole Miss, and then the 19-hour marathon, whatever it was, against Oklahoma State on Sunday. 24 runs, 26 hits, 7 doubles, a triple, and 4 homers. Now, 40 strikeouts in 3 games is something that's got to get fixed, but whether you're talking about Adrian Rodriguez coming through, he was 4 for 6 in the Oklahoma State game. He actually had the go-ahead home run in the Louisville game. They just couldn't finish it off. Max Ballou had a great weekend. Will Gasparino had a great weekend. The starting pitching performances that you got from Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison, even Ruger Riojas out of the bullpen, I think he just kind of ran out of gas a little bit. But CJ, overall, aside from the 2-1 record, Schloss and the staff, they're going to be feeling really good about where they are coming out of this weekend.
Yeah, I have to imagine so. And I think all Texas baseball fans saw night one and said, great, this ballpark, this program, like it's never gonna mesh. And then we saw, the offensive eruption. That's kind of what I expected. Maybe it was a little too quick, premature to say that I expected the Texas offense to be putting up 10, 14 runs per game. But Jeff, we saw them in the scrimmage. We've heard about them behind the scenes. We know that this lineup can rake, and they certainly did that the final 2 games of the weekend. Big thing for me, starting pitchers were throwing strikes, right? We talked about Jared Spencer, Luke Harrison, about 67% of pitches were strikes, 12 innings, no earned runs. I think you take that any and all weekends throughout the entire season. That's a great sign early on. Now, again, my big goal coming into the weekend was no blown leads after the 7th inning. Texas blew 2 leads in that first opener against Louisville. Does that become a trend? Can you outscore your bullpen's deficiencies? That's kind of had to be the case previously. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point this year. Something I'm at least keeping an eye on as you go into SEC play in a couple weeks is when you have those 1, 2, 3 run leads going into 8th and 9th innings, can you close the door and come away with a win?
The home opener for the Texas baseball team is going to be Tuesday at the Dish, 6:30 against U of H. And then coming up this weekend. Now, the weather might not cooperate. Doesn't look like it's going to cooperate, but I assume they're going to try to get in all 3 games starting on Friday with Dartmouth coming to town. So, again, it's going to be so good to be watching live baseball at the Dish this weekend. Again, shout out to Vic Schaefer and the women's basketball team for a big win over LSU. They've got a couple of big games coming up. Actually, they have the same kind of week off that the men do. So, getting that week off right now is going to be really good for especially after a couple of back-to-back weekend games, CJ, one against South Carolina, one against LSU. I know they're at home. Your home crowd kind of gives you that extra lift, but those ladies deserve a rest and a little time off. And softball added again. Mike White's team off to an 11-0 start. A lot of good things happening on the 40 acres right now. We'll have it covered for you here on the channel and at ontexasfootball.com. For CJ and the rest of the On Texas Football family, I'm Jeff Howe. Have a great week. And until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.